There we go. There's the sounder again, which says, please pay attention. Hi, this is Stan Houston for Interesting Ideas, a podcast radio production, and occasionally we even make a picture of it. You know, I have the proverbial face made for radio, but sometimes I get brave and not only put my performance in the studio on the recording, but sometimes I'll even turn on the video camera and share that with you. As many of you may know, I very much begin my new year right now with the time that has passed, the Rosh Hashanah to the Yom Kippur, Days of Awe. Right here in the middle of October is when we begin our celebration of the new year. And we do it with the things that perhaps a new year should be about. Right now, oftentimes when we do the new year in January, it's about too much firewater, too much food and feasting, certainly a lot of football and occasionally some family time, but maybe it should be a little more reflective and more suggestive of how we should live out the new year, and we're going to try and do that starting right now. So we'll get a head start on the calendar year. I'd like to do that today by just simply telling you a couple of stories that I think might be helpful and useful to those of us in life and business. I think most of you know the film that went on to become a TV show, and in effect, there we are. Cheers. Yes, Cheers. A bar, and I guess there really is a bar. Yes, there is a bar in Boston called the Cheers Bar. And of course, there were a variety of characters, all of them very fallen creatures in terms of their excellence of life and living. But they all came together, and interestingly enough, they were tough on one another, but when things got tough, they came together. And of course, the theme of Cheers was, everybody knows your name, and they're really glad you came. I oftentimes, when I gave a presentation, particularly in a church or religious environment, said that, in effect, every church should see if they could be a little bit like the Cheers Bar. That, you know what? No matter what, we're really glad you came. And everybody knows your name. That kind of welcoming ceremony, that kind of welcoming deal, you know. Hi! Welcome! And the people would share with one another and care for one another. Obviously, they'd fight with one another from time to time, but usually you could tell that they cared for one another and there was some real reconciliation. And so I would simply suggest that perhaps in maybe your church or your organization or your business, customer or colleague, they're glad you came. They know your name. And there we go. So as you're beginning your business year and thinking about the kind of business you want to be and in these difficult times, how you can be different, might say, let's do a little Cheers audit for our organization and see if we can't come up with a different way of greeting and welcoming people. Now, with that, I'd also like to share a true story, and it really happened this way. I was working with a business leader, the CEO, and we were trying to put together a number of things that would make the business work better. And I had a variety of suggestions, sometimes some recommendations, oftentimes some challenges. You'd say, I'd like to challenge you, but you have your right to say no. And sometimes he'd say, Stan, no, that's a good idea, but I'm going to decline the challenge right now. I'm going to work on something else. But I'll tell you one that he did accept. You see, what happened is after my meeting with him, I went by the receptionist, and she was always so good and kind, and she was really good at the job. And then she asked me, said, well, Stan, what do you really do, with the boss? Well, I thought this would be good for some transparency, so I just I'll tell you a little bit about what I do. And she was fascinated. And she said, maybe you could help me. I want to be really good at this job. I work real hard and I want to do well. Maybe you could help me. And so that began the conversation. And I sat there for a while and made some suggestions, and she embraced them fully and said she'd put them into practice. The next time I came back, I had the same kind of session. She said, she wasn't paying me, of course, but, 15, 20, 25 minutes, was able to do that. And she put some things into practice. She really did the work. And you could just tell how she was kind of going and growing and loving this. And so what I did is I called up the boss one time and said, hey, there's no fee for this, but I want to drop over and make a little bit of a suggestion for your business. And he said, okay, sure, come on. He said, well, come on, we'll have lunch. And over lunch, I said, this new receptionist, this young woman is really good. She said, yeah, she really is. And I said, I want you to know that she's asked me to coach her. And he said, we really enjoy her. She's really, really good for us. And she's the best receptionist we've ever had. And I'm grateful for it. And I said, I want you to do me a favor. And he said, well, okay, shoot. And I said, I want you to go and take your printer and go over to the business card place where you get business cards printed. And I want you to print a business card with her name on it. He said, for the receptionist? I said, yeah. Do you know how important it can make people feel to actually have a business card? The bosses and the big shots and the salespeople do, but why doesn't every employee have a business card that they could share, and there they've got their title? And he said, okay, all right. Should I put receptionist? And I said, no. I want you to put CHO. CHO. Chief Hospitality Officer. He smiled. He got it. Chief Hospitality Officer. Yes. She is responsible. Expand her promotional work. She's not just the receptionist. She is the officer to make sure that this place is full of hospitality. And then because I also knew that the president was a religious man, Christian gentleman, I said, one of the pastors that I knew talked about that one of the little books in the Bible called 3 John. He said, yeah, it's very short and to the point, and some people wonder why it's there. And his whole point was this: if you read it kind of in between the lines, you will see that the people are told that one of the chief gifts they could have is to be hospitable. It's actually a little bit of a direction that says hospitality counts. It's important, and hey, everybody knows your name and they're glad you came and they show hospitality. You know what? He did it. Next time I came, he did a little announcement and called, over the intercom, and the people came. So I want you to come and let's just call her Rachel. Good name. It's not her real name, but it'll work. And they came together, and people didn't know. She didn't know it was. And then while they were there, he told people that Rachel had been promoted. And then he held up the business card and said, she is now the CHO. She is the Chief Hospitality Officer. And it's her job to not only be what she is, but to help us learn how to be more hospitable to each other and to certainly the clients and colleagues and customers that come our way. There was a big cheer. The girl started to cry. And she immediately said, wait. She called up her mother and said, Mom, I'm the chief hospitality officer for the company. I'm the chief hospitality officer. Well, I don't know the full ending of the story. I'm assuming that things went well for her. The boss was thrilled, got a good lesson. He said to me, "That's the best thing that has ever happened. And all I did was print some business cards and change people and change some lives and maybe change my business." He said, "Unfortunately, your fees aren't that cheap, but they sure are worth it." And I'm very grateful. Ever since then, I've always been saying that business leaders should have what I call a CWO, a Chief Wisdom Officer, but make sure that somebody in your organization is responsible for the hospitality to customers, colleagues, clients, vendors, to each other, that this is a place where everybody knows your name and they're really glad you came. Just a couple of stand stories as we flow into 2023. All the best and blessings to you. May I suggest that you put hospitality at close to the top of your list as to what you are going to be and what your business is going to be about in these difficult times. It could make the difference. Could be. I guarantee it. It will make a difference. All the best blessings and hospitality to you. Till next time, bye for now. Please reach out to me, Stan Houston, at stan@witradio.net. Witradio.net is our website, and 520-664-7002 USA.